There was a co-defendant in this case, a co-conspirator that we've been telling you about, and his name is Cortlen Henry. He went by YNW Bortlen, and the state claims that he basically assisted Melly in covering up this crime. When they claimed that this was a drive-by shooting. Bortlen shows up at the hospital early that morning with Christopher Williams and Anthony Williams in the vehicle, dead. Pulls up to the ER and tells the officer there, we were in a drive-by, etc. So he was in court this morning for what's called a status hearing with his attorney, and he was asking that the conditions of his bail be modified. Bortlen is currently on house arrest. So let's take a look at some of that court hearing, a little snippet of it now.
The court, when we were here the last time, you let him go to church and stuff, you said about working, you would be subject to seeing his schedule. We filed a schedule for the next couple of months.
I saw that.
And he would like to be able to work. And I talked to his probation supervisor. She has no problem with him at all. She said that if he's going to go to work, she'd like anybody has to do, provide an itinerary, where he's going to be, how he's going to get there, how it's going to get done, when he's going to be back, you know, and the normal check-in, drug testing, everything that goes with that.
This schedule includes, locations all across the eastern seaboard and Midwest in terms of the ability to supervise for probation and pretrial, rather. That is almost impossible. With regards to the time frames and all of the studio in issues on that, don't understand why they have to be until midnight or 11 p.m., why they can't be done during other hours on that. So the state would object. He's already shown prior issues with pretrial. So for those reasons, the state would say that the current schedule only needs to be maintained for another 3 or 4 months at this point before we'll be in trial.
Respectfully, the motion tonight. All right. Thank you.
Okay, Michael Bryant, the judge says no dice. Bortlen, you still got to stay home. You're not going to be able to travel all over the place doing shows or what have you. Yeah. So not really totally surprising.
No. But hey, this is the old rule. You don't ask, you don't get. He should be so glad just to be on house arrest. Judge, come on, I'm in the studio till after midnight. And then, cry me a river, come on. So yeah, I'm not shocked that the modification requested was denied.
Yeah, and there's that old saying, Michael, I always think of it, nothing good happens outside after midnight. Brad,
Thanks, Mom.
This doesn't surprise me. We've seen what happens when, I guess, these guys are out after midnight, right? So I'm not surprised by this.
It doesn't surprise me, but at the same token, so representing entertainers, representing rappers, representing all these guys, their day starts at like 10 o'clock at night and goes to 6 o'clock in the morning in these studios. So it's not unusual because most of these guys are in the studios between those hours. That's just how they operate. Everybody, does their music between the hours of 10 and 6 a.m. That's their day. That's their day to day. Does it surprise me that the judge denied it? No, it doesn't surprise me. But at the same token, when the prosecutor's like, I don't understand why he has to go to the studio at midnight, that's when they go to the studio. I mean, and it's kind of like, if you're in this world, it's common knowledge that those are the hours that they work.
True. And I guess it's kind of like the rock star lifestyle, right? A lot of like rock bands and stuff, they work at night. But Afi, I think he is fortunate to be on house arrest, honestly. This is a double homicide case in which he's accused of helping cover up a double homicide.
Absolutely. He's fortunate to be on house arrest. These are 2 very heavy charges. And I watched the hearing this morning. I think his lawyer did what he was asked to do, but it was always going to be a safe bet that the judge was going to deny this request, this modification request, because when somebody is charged with a double homicide and someone who is their alleged co-conspirator is on trial right now, he's going to be on verdict watch soon. You're going to want to be able to put hands on the other co-conspirator just because, I think the prosecutor said today his schedule is tentative, but he may be up and down the eastern seaboard. You would really want to be able to know where that person is and make sure that they are within your jurisdiction when Melly's verdict comes down. So I completely understand why the judge would deny the request, but I also understand why you would want to be able to at least extend the hours that you can work, which is the studio hours, which is after 10 o'clock. That is, as you guys have already said, the creative hours.
Yeah, he might have to adjust a little bit, I guess, when you're, I mean, maybe adjust a little bit, like move it up a little bit. I mean, it kind of reminds me of when you're in college, right? You're like going out and partying and everything late at night, and it's kind of what like people that age do. I mean, am I wrong? Am I wrong? All right, so.
Not wrong.
What if Henry was a construction worker and he's working, midnight to 8, repairing roads and, doing that kind of work? Probably would have gotten an adjustment, more likely. I think there's some bias probably in the nature of the work that he does being less understood, like Brad suggests and Avi suggests. But I just thought, hey, if there are overnight workers.
Maybe you're right about that. Yeah, maybe you're right about that, Michael. If he were a construction worker doing, stuff on, like let's think about like highway work. It's summertime. You see everybody out on the highway. Sometimes they shut it down late at night or bring it down to one lane. Maybe it would be different. So maybe there is a little bias there, but we can't get inside the judge's head on that. But they said he had violated in the past too. So we'll see. We'll see what happens as his trial nears, which is going to be in October, by the way. They reiterated that today. Clowns cry gray XXX, Michael. Why is Cortlen Henry's trial date not until October? So it sounds like Clowns cry gray XXX, Michael, would like to see that trial maybe moved up a little bit. Maybe there's a reason why there's a delay by a few months, I guess. Yeah,
sometimes it's as simple as the court calendar. Once these became severed trials, they're treated as separate trials. There may also be some practical considerations with the players that are involved and the schedules. We're going to wrap this thing up, mid-July, late July. Not unreasonable to give everybody a breather for a month or two to kind of regroup and get ready for Plan B. So not a big surprise. I think actually when I heard it was October, I thought it's actually pretty quick considering all the factors. Mm-hmm.
And honestly, I mean, this case is years old now. I mean, it's almost 5 years old. So maybe it's not that, maybe it is quick, seeing that we've gotten to this point with this case. Frame from YouTube, what do you think? Will Bortlen fully snitch on Melly or just say what the defense needs? This is what Frame is asking, Brad. I don't think that if Bortlen was snitching, I think we'd know by now, right?
Yeah, I think we would know by now. I mean, listen, again, trials are very fluid. That could change. I don't think it's going to, but certainly that could change. I don't predict him taking the stand with a pending case against himself that's going in October. I don't think he's going to be taking the stand and testifying. I would be very surprised at that. But again, things change as trials go on, and day-to-day things change, and minute-to-minute things change. Arguments are made where evidence is excluded or evidence is allowed in, and all of a sudden it changes kind of what you're going to argue and what you're going to cross-examine someone on and things of that nature. It's like, that's what's so fascinating and interesting of being a trial attorney, is because it's never the same. It's always different. And within a trial, it's always different. Where you think the case is going to go, it might go in a completely different direction. And I've had cases where I thought I was sunk, and the guy insisted on going to trial, and we're picking a jury, and in my head I'm like, this is just going to be a long plea, and then things fall apart, and the state doesn't put on the right witnesses, or they don't say the right things, and then all of a sudden at the end of the day you're getting a not guilty on a case that in your head you were like, I'm probably going to lose this case, but my client really wants to go to trial. He does not want any deals. And I've seen the opposite happen, where you think, and that's why I say there's no slam dunks, where you think that the case is a great case for trial, and then things happen at trial that change the dynamics, and evidence is allowed in that you didn't think was going to be allowed in. So it's always interesting, and that's what makes this job so interesting. I think everyone that is a trial attorney will verify that.
Most definitely. Bortlen's biggest challenge, I think, is going to be the fact that he gave a statement to law enforcement, because the statement does not help him at all. No. He talked. No, the statement doesn't help in the hospital.
And I'll give you a little bit of insight. Is I was representing both of them very early on, not at the hospital stage, but within a couple days of that, I was representing both just for the purposes of any kind of statement that the police may want. And obviously I was the attorney, so I wasn't going to volunteer any statements at that point. But that statement was already given. Now, does that statement help him? It depends, again, on the defense and how you're using that and what your definition of a drive-by is and how a drive-by could have occurred, things of that nature. But certainly saying nothing is usually the best route to take. But when you show up at a hospital and there's people that are in the car that are either passed or injured, in this case passed, but no matter what you do, if you show up at a hospital with individuals that have been shot, the police are going to want to get a statement from you. And the natural thing is to give a statement at that point, when in reality you should say, hey, listen, I don't know what's going on yet. I want to talk to my attorney first. And that's always the best advice in any type of situation, because police are usually they're not thinking to exclude you at that point. They're looking to try to include you. And any statement you give, they're going to pick it apart to include you in the amount of suspects, not exclude you from that. So that's why we always say, everyone always says, keep your mouth shut and until we find out exactly what's going on and what the police are looking at.
Well, we're going to talk more about Bortlen when we come back from this break. Keep the questions coming in on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. We'll be right back. I'm Anjanette Levy, and you're watching Law and Crime.